Recording. Okay, so welcome back to day 3 of the MEDIN Metadata Standards and Guidelines workshop. I don't think there's anyone new on the call today, so we won't bother with introductions. We all already know each other. So today's all about discovery metadata. So I'll be doing a quick presentation, and then Summer is going to walk us through the online tool with a couple of examples. Obviously, as usual, feel free to raise your hand and unmute to ask any questions, or use the chat if you don't want to unmute. I'll just share my screen. Can you all see that okay? Cool. So this presentation is all about locating datasets online. We use the MEDIN Discovery Metadata Standards to do this. So what is metadata and what should we be doing with it? Essentially, metadata is information about a dataset. So by extension, discovery metadata is information about a dataset or a series or service that enables people to find it online using a portal and determine where they can access that dataset. Or it's a documented record of datasets managed within an organization or application. Discovery metadata will contain information like the title and abstract, its temporal and geographic coverage, who owns the record, any access conditions, and where that dataset is held, among other things. So some of these elements have recommended formats, like the title, for example, in a when, who, where, what format. For example, March 2017 being your when, BGS, the British Geological Survey, being the who, Dogger Bank being the where, and Geophysics Survey being what. So that title would hopefully give you enough information to decide from a quick glance whether it was relevant to your needs. So just quickly, we talk about datasets quite a lot, but depending on how you collect your data or use your data, you might think of datasets differently. So the correct level for a dataset in terms of discovery metadata is a cruise, survey, or set of repeat observations with a common purpose. It usually constitutes a specifically funded piece of work. And the dataset should be easily extractable from a database and should be searchable using an online interface. In reality, it's one of those things that's a little bit subjective, so it will depend on what would be most useful for the people searching for the data. So the standard is made up of 3 components. We've got our guidance notes, which describe all of the elements, smart tools like the online metadata editor and metadata maestro, which we'll talk a little bit about later, and the validator. The guidance is available for download from the website. The document explains all of the elements in detail and gives examples and states their requirement level. So elements can be mandatory, meaning a discovery metadata record is incomplete if any of this information is missing. They can be conditional, so to be filled in if possible or under certain circumstances, or they can be optional, which means it gives extra information which might be useful to users, but the record won't be invalid if it's missing. So one thing to be aware of at the moment is that there's a couple of different standards on the website. So currently all of the tools are running on version 2.3.8, but we're working on upgrading everything to the version 3.1.1, which is the most recent version. So to put the MEDIN Discovery Metadata Standard in context, there are international standards, ISO 19115 and ISO 19139, which describe the elements that should make up a discovery metadata record and the XML format that needs to be in. So XML, very basically, is extensible markup language. So it's a programming language designed to be human and computer readable that adds tags to the different elements and allows computer applications to sort of comb through and pick out those bits of metadata. So if you've ever Googled a movie and it comes up with a little summary at the side where it tells you what year it came out, where you can watch it and all of that stuff. That's because it's picked out that metadata from various different sources that have tagged it. So that's pretty cool, I think. So anyway, the EU took this international standard and made it EU specific, and they've called it Inspire. UK took that and made it UK specific and called it Gemini. And then MEDIN took Gemini and made it UK marine specific. And we make it marine specific through the vocabs that we use. So we've got things like P02 keywords, our vertical extent keywords and coordinate reference systems, file formats, our European Directory of Marine Organisations, and some other ones from ICES and CDataNet as well. So the tools that we have are the online editor, which is what someone's going to be talking us through later. And also the desktop tool, which is Metadata Maestro. So that can be used in a standalone mode if your internet's not very good. And it can also be used to make templates as well. So basically what the tools do is that you input the metadata into a nice user interface, and then it takes the information and writes it into the XML format for you. The final step is validation, which is critical. Basically, that we've got a piece of software integrated into the tools, which is called the schematron. It scans the records and makes sure all of the mandatory and conditional elements are filled in. And if they are, then it's valid and compliant with the MEDIN standards. So having one piece of software makes this easy to update rather than making individual changes to the two different tools. So this is an example of what the errors look like. I think they can be a little bit difficult to decipher. There is guidance available on the website though. And one thing to note is the validator doesn't check the actual content of the record. So garbage in, garbage out applies. You're responsible for checking spellings and grammar and making sure actually that all the content is correct. So in summary, the correct level of granularity is essential. Discovery metadata is designed for display on the MEDIN portal. We use XML to do this. And there is guidance on the website, and there's some FAQs on there as well. Standards evolve. So basically MEDIN is represented on various groups linked to discovery metadata, like the Gemini Working Group and the British Standards Institute. So we're engaged in and contribute to any changes in national and international standards that could influence our own. So that's just to make sure we keep the MEDIN standard compliant all the way up the chain to Gemini, Inspire and the international standards. And if you're interested, you can sign up to a mailing list to be updated if you want. So that's that on discovery metadata. Are there any questions so far? Doesn't look like it. Are you ready to go somewhere to show people the online tool?
Yeah. I just wanna confirm, is everyone happy with discovery metadata? Do you know what it is? Only because when I first started, it took me a while to understand what it was. Is everyone happy, or do you want me to just give a brief explanation?
If you could go over it, that would be quite useful, I think.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So I'll share my screen because I really struggled, and then one day it clicked. I'll just. So if you could just let me know when you can see my screen, that would be grand. Perfect. So obviously we've gone over the guidance, which is great. But what is a discovery metadata record? Why is it different? So basically a discovery metadata record is a way that your data is discovered. Now we've filled in all this information. And what I didn't understand when I first started is, why do I have to fill in information again? Like when it's all here. So we don't have a tool that extracts all this information. So that's why you have to create a separate discovery metadata record. And they are different things, and they have different standards. So this is the physical data here that gets ingested and put on MEDIN. Where am I going? Ooh. But this is what I'm showing you here. This is the discovery metadata record. So this is similar information, but still slightly different, depending on what, the standard. And this is, so when you fill in the discovery metadata record and export it, which I'll go over in a minute, this is what we come to. So you search for something in a particular area or search a particular keyword, and this, like records like this is what you come up with. And this is just a series of information about the data. And then in theory, you should then be able to, and it takes you to its DOI, and then you should be able to download the resource, which, yeah, that one maybe needs sorting out, but oh no, ignore me. No, so we can download it in Darwin Core. Does that make sense, Alex? Yeah, perfect. Okay. Only because, like, Rosanna, you did a great job, but I just remember struggling with this particularly when I first started, so I thought I'd just double check. So yeah, so to make one of these, oh, that's a DOI, where have I gone? Oh no, yeah, okay. So to make one of these lovely records, you need to go to the discovery metadata editor. So if you don't have an account already, you can register for an account here. And then when you do have an account, you can then just log in. So I am logged in somewhere here, I think. Yeah, so I was actually looking up the NAWL record, but just give this a save. I haven't edited it, I promise. Oh, there we go. Okay, so when you go to the homepage, this is what you see. So we've got a create tab here, which allows you to create a new record. We've got an update tab here, which allows you to type in the title and update any of your previous records. Import and export to do with XMLs, like Rosanna was talking about earlier, but I'm not going to go into that much really, because they're not really used that often. And then my records are all the records in your account which you've created. You won't have a delete records button. That is admin privileges only, I'm afraid. So if you did want to delete a record, you just have to get in touch and we'll do that for you. So if I create metadata record, so I've got this one open here. Did you want me just to go ahead and create this? Or create? Oh.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sorry, rather than paste in the the Excel formula. Okay, so yeah, so when you click create, it brings you to a page like this. So create metadata record. You then enter in your title as it's shown in your MEDIN spreadsheet, and then you just need to select data set or series, depending on if it's a series. But for you guys, it's always going to be data set, and then you have a series, which I'll go into in a second. So if you're happy for, it's just the discovery metadata, if you're happy for it to be on data.gov.uk, it's just an extra platform for advertising your data. You can click it. I don't know if Maddie, you have a preference on that.
It's really up to the groups because they own the data. So if you want it to be available there, then you can take it. If you don't, then don't take it, I guess. But I think, you know, if you're probably publishing it or making it available on MEDIN, then it kind of makes sense to make it available on the other site because your data are available anyway. But yeah, that's just my ramblings on that. But yeah, ultimately it's up to the groups.
Okay, and this is Lindsay. This is yours, I think, isn't it? I mean, we can always delete this record afterwards, and you can, you know, you can do it again. Are you happy?
I think that's fine to share it.
Yeah, perfect.
Can you go back afterwards and edit?
So this particular checkbox, I'm not sure if you can go back and edit. I think it's just as you're creating it. But I mean, if it comes to it, just let me know if you're not happy, and then I can yeah, because I'm an admin, I can do something about it, but I don't think you can, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Share it. It's fine.
Yeah, perfect. So, and I'll click create. Perfect. So we've got a green success bar at the top, which is going to be very important. I'll go into that in a second. So you've got various tabs here, which have fields which you need to fill in. So the first, identification, is very similar to general metadata. And then this also is file identifier, which, if you go onto the discovery metadata record, sorry, I can't see it because the thing's in the way. If you go into the discovery metadata record on the MEDIN portal, that's what it is. That's the file identifier. Just to give a bit of context there, why that's needed. Oh, where am I going? Okay. So yeah, so titles here, that's already been in, so that's grand. And then you just sorry, it's I don't want to paste the formula. So I usually just copy it from the MEDIN spreadsheet. Oh, sorry, I probably should have said, so mandatory fields are in blue, conditional fields are in green, and then white fields are optional. Obviously, it's great to fill in as much as you can, but you don't have to fill in everything. Yeah. So web address of resource, you can leave this blank because this is essentially when we get the MEDIN spreadsheet and it's signed off and everything, it gets ingested into the Dash system, and then we will then give one of these download links, which means someone can click on it and download it straight away. So that's great. Assuming that you're archiving with Dash. If you're not archiving with Dash, which is no problem at all, yeah, you can put your individual resource there.
I might just quickly jump in if that's all right.
Yeah.
Just to let people know that you don't need to remember all of this because it is in the guidance. I don't know if everybody will have had a chance to look at the email that I sent around this morning, but it's another step-by-step process. So you can focus on what Summer is saying and be assured that you'll have something to fall back on, this video and some guidance as well.
Yeah, and actually to add to that, normally when data providers you know, give us data and then make a discovery metadata record, usually they pass that discovery metadata record to us, you know, and say it's done, and then we'll QA it as well. So you don't have to get it perfect or right the first time, you know, because we'll help you fill in the blanks and we'll help you with it. So don't panic. I think this is probably the easiest part of this this whole process, really. So yeah, and so general web of resource is the general website where the resource is going to be available. So for this, we usually put dash, although MEDIN would also be fine too, but yeah, that's just because we're going to be the DAC that makes it available, and therefore that's our general website. So the code is going to be your survey code. So that goes straight in there. I personally usually leave the code space blank because it doesn't really make sense in this context, because it's not quite, yeah, doesn't really apply to dash too much, but it's just normally sort of a website and then like a code after which takes you to it, but it's a little bit more complex with dash. And then data format. So if you've provided a MEDIN spreadsheet, it's going to be delimited because it's an Excel spreadsheet. Maybe you've provided us with a few other things like GIS files. Yeah, so whichever is applicable really. So parent ID is going to be the file identifier of your project, which sounds horrible, but basically, I don't know if one's already been created, but for the project, we need to create a discovery metadata record, which comes with its own file identifier, which I'll just remind you what that is. Where have I gone? Yeah, so when you create your project discovery metadata record, of course, that comes with its own file identifier, and that is the one that needs to go in here, if that makes sense. But again, so we can help you with this. So we will know what the project discovery metadata is, and you know we can essentially do that for you. So don't worry too much. It's just to understand really. So when you've done with one page, you can then save. And then you need to give it a minute, and there we go, so success. So what can happen with this tool, because it's very, very quirky, is that you can end up skipping past your tab, not letting it save properly, and then it doesn't save any new changes you've made. So it's quite important to give it you know, a moment to save itself, and then it's all good. So now we get to classification, which is all about dates and location. So as far as I'm aware, you guys use WGS84, but it's just your spatial reference system. And then that automatically brings this vocab there. So that's all good. So when we get to temporal reference, this can be extremely subjective, and everyone is always like, what is the beginning date and what is the end date? You know, and I suppose it makes sense, as you know, in some contexts, because of course you've got your start survey date and end survey date. It doesn't always make sense, but then we get to the date the data was published, which is a tricky one, because if you've not published in a publication, the date the data is going to be published is when this finally is exported. So the best bet is to put today's date, and then when we go through it and finally export it, we will update that date for you. So it's the day that actually gets published, if that makes sense. So the date when the data was last updated, that's normally when there's sort of physical updates have been made within the MEDIN spreadsheet. That can be a bit subjective as well, but it's yeah, I usually put, if I'm still working on it or QAing it, I usually put today's date, and then I can always update it afterwards. And then the date the data was created, that can also be a bit subjective. When it comes to surveys, I usually just put the end date of the survey, because that was the last day that data was collected, and therefore that data set was created. Maddie or Rosanna, feel free to correct me if I'm getting any of this wrong or misinterpreting it. Yeah, so I'm going to leave these blank, because we can see what happens when we don't fill these in. So, but we'll see at the end. So now we're on keywords. So like it says on the tin, you need to select a bunch of keywords. So these come from a specific vocab list. So this, you just need to scroll down and find out what is applicable, really. It's sometimes not the most quick system in the world. So I suppose habitat characterization, habitat extent. So by the way, I'm pressing on the control key, which allows me to select multiple. And then I don't think any more are applicable, to be honest with you. So I'm going to click on that. So then we've got our other keywords, which various people have added by adding new keywords from the thesaurus. So that again, it's not a massively quick system, but you just scroll down, find what keywords are applicable. So again, I'm pressing control, so I can select multiple. Yeah, so there's lots of can be quite random too, lots of keywords in there. But obviously you can always add a new keyword as well if there's one that's specifically missing. So again, I'm going to press save, which is in the bottom right corner, and then we've got the green bar of success, which is fantastic. So now we've got a bounding box to draw. Maybe, yeah. So what I did is I clicked the plus symbol there, and then I clicked Google Satellite. So unfortunately, our tool is a little bit dated. It is being replaced by sort of a similar sort of system, hopefully next year. But yeah, unfortunately, it does have these quirks where something doesn't quite make sense sometimes. But yeah, if you do have any issues with this, or if you do forget to select the little plus sign and you can't find it, just pop us an email and we'll probably be able to sort it in 2 minutes, because obviously we work with this every day. I know it's quirks. So this is just going to be an area of your survey site. So I'm not going to lie to you, I have no idea where this is. So I hope you don't mind. For now, I'm just going to draw a bounding box in a random place, but I can always delete this record afterwards, or I can delete the bounding box view afterwards. Yeah, so unfortunately, it's very simplistic. It's just a rectangle or a four-sided shape that you can select. So you can't select polygons or anything like that. It's just to give a general area for the MEDIN portal, so that if someone searches for a particular area, it knows whether it overlaps. So then that automatically fills in these. If you did have specific coordinates of a four-sided shape that you wanted to add, you're also welcome to replace these to make it more accurate. So then I'm going to save that. So extent goes more into the specific regions. So CVOX regions is particularly what sea or channel or anything your particular survey occurred. So you just need to select one or more of those which are applicable. So these all have very specific things here. Yep, so this is UK charting progress sea areas. And then I don't know if anyone's heard of the IC's rectangles and statistical areas. So I do actually have links for these, which I can provide to you, where you can go straight to a website which will show you where they are. Otherwise it can be quite difficult to find. But Maddie, if it's all right, I'll send those to you afterwards, because I completely forgot.
That's all right. Just a quick question from my end. Because they're not mandatory fields, can they be skipped for the community data if they've selected a bounding box, just to simplify the process, I guess.
Yeah, they can be. Yeah, they're not mandatory, so it's not required. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so I'll skip past this then. But yeah, just so you're aware. So vertical extent is just, yeah, like it says on the tin, you just select the applicable term. Yeah, so this is then sort of vertical coordinate reference system. Yeah, so it's to do with depth and things, but you might not have that information. So actually, this is one case where it's, even though it says it's mandatory, it's not actually mandatory because it's conditional. So you can leave that. So I'm gonna save that. There we go. Okay. So again, the green success bar. This is really the only field you need to fill in here. So lineage. So lineage is anything additional that didn't go in the abstract, anything that users should know about their data. Yeah, and anything additional really. You can go into spatial resolution if you want to. It's not mandatory, but yeah, you can specify that if you want to, or if you have that information, that's great. And then we get to usage. So because of the way that standards has evolved, this other restrictions is the only option you can select. So that's, you're not going mad. There is just one option there. Unfortunately, that's just a quirk how the tool has developed with the sort of, changing standards. So for this, I usually put open access if it's going to be made openly accessible, because this is limitations on public access. And then conditions for access and use constraints. It depends what license you have. I'm not sure what you have here. Okay. So we just need to confirm a license. Usually, if you want it to be as open as possible, it's going to be CC BY or it's going to be open government license. But that'll be something. We'll send you a permission form and we'll ask you to specify the license as well as any additional restrictions you want. But normally it's going to be, yeah, we're going to specify the access and then specify the particular reuse license. So users know exactly what they can do with the data once they've got it. Frequency of update. This is usually going to be as needed, because there's, yeah, we're only really going to update it if it needs to be updating. So if you want to save. Okay, so then we've got our contacts. So who's responsible for the maintenance of the data set or resource? This is quite subjective. You would probably put, I'm sorry, I forgot the name of your group. Ooh, yeah. So let's hope, I'm hoping it shows up. Because it should match up to Edmo, in theory. Was this, Maddie, was this the one that was on Edmo?
Yeah, it was added this week or last week. I can't remember now.
Okay.
But you can search for Catherine Knight, otherwise she appears in the list for the Narwhal data. So I guess we're like combining survey information for this record.
Yeah, so I guess we shouldn't put Narwhal expeditions. So this is good actually because it means we can add a contact. So I'm hoping that the reason SSSI didn't come up is because it's not currently attached to your contact. So we can. Ooh. If anyone sees it, let me know. Ooh.
No.
Doesn't look like it's there. Okay, that might be
It's not in as SSSI, is it?
it could be.
Matthews.
No. Try just typing it in. Oh gosh, I've selected it now. I don't know whether that would be. Don't think I can see it. No, so. There we go.
No.
Okay. So in theory, this should be a direct link to the Edmo vocab. It appears that maybe they're not quite synced up at the moment, which is a bit strange. So we might have to leave that for now. Sorry about that. I don't know how to unselect this. Okay, so that has not worked. So I'm gonna.
What if you just don't add the contact and then it won't go in?
Yeah.
That hopefully should be fine.
It always goes wrong when you're demonstrating, doesn't it? Yeah, nightmare. But anyway, yeah, so I need to investigate that. But in a normal circumstance, you should be able to find your organization here if it's on Edmo. And then you would add the first and last name of the contact you want to add, who's affiliated with that organization, and then the position and contact details. And then once you've done that, then it should appear on here for you to select. Yeah, so you've got custodian, metadata contact, originator. I suspect all three of those are going to be SSSI, unless you can think of a reason why they wouldn't be. And then the distributor is going to be Dash. So data manager Dash is normally what we go by. There are a few different roles that are affiliated with Dash, but yeah, and we obviously if you have archived with us and published for us, that would be us. But yeah. Okay. Specification. Hopefully we should be able to find the particular. I don't know whether this is a bit overkill actually, because it might confuse things, because Maddie, you've named them slightly differently. So this isn't mandatory actually, so it's maybe not worth this one. I'm just thinking, yeah, I think this is overkill. So if you can find your particular guideline, that's great, but because they've been named differently, I think it might get a bit confusing. So it might be worth just leaving that one.
At the moment, I think I just skip over this section.
Okay, so once you got to the last page, this is all automatically filled in, and then you can then save and validate. So we've got this horrible red box saying you've done something wrong. And I think Rosanna was just talking about this earlier. It doesn't look very nice. It looks really unreadable, but I promise you it's not too bad. So I know for a fact that we've missed loads of mandatory elements because I've been skipping over them, not filling them in. But if you are thinking, oh my gosh, what does this mean? You can follow this here, which gives you a list of the particular errors, and then whereabouts you should be looking for the errors. And then,
Sorry, how did you get to that box up?
so there's a, sorry, it's
Oh, right, yeah,
writing
yeah.
quite small. Yes, it says, please see list of error messages here.
Yeah.
If you click it directly, it will take you off of this page. And you'll be like, oh no, where have I gone? So it's always good to open link a new tab, because unfortunately it doesn't do that for you. So for this particular one, MD metadata namespace, it's to do with the date stamp. I feel like I'm not going to be able to find this one. Okay, it might be slightly different, but date stamp, I mean, that'll be to do with the date. And it does, there is kind of a similar one here. Doesn't quite say date stamp though. But so you've managed to work out whereabouts your error has occurred. So you can then return to editing by clicking here. Hopefully. Perfect. So let's have a little check here. So all the mandatory fields are filled in here. Yeah.
Sorry, how did you get to that validation screen with the save and validate? Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then when you want to return, it says to return to editing a record, click here. It's not the fastest tool in the world, I'm afraid. Like I say, we are waiting for an update, which should make it a lot faster and more intuitive and easier to use. But unfortunately, we're stuck with this just for the time being. Yeah, so classification, at least that's where the first error that happened has told us it's occurred. So yeah, so we've got load of dates missing. So we want the start date and end date. Sorry, I'm just going to push this over to the other screen. You guys can't see, but so you just need to select the year and the month. So it started on the 22nd, and then it ended on the 23rd. So the data was published. So I'm just going to have to put today's date at the moment, but obviously it's not today's date because it will be published when this is exported, whenever that's ready. So Tuesday date was last updated. I'm going to put today's date again because if it's still going through the process of being digitized and we QA'd, and then we might find something during QA which maybe needs mending or checking. So usually I would put today's date if it's still being processed. The data was created. Like I said, I will put the end state of the survey because that is when data collection ended and that is when the data set was actually created. It's a bit subjective and it could vary depending on the type of survey you have or the type of data you have, but that's normally sort of what I go by. Yeah, so then that's all of the fields filled in. And then So just for the time being, I'm going to put dash for everything. Trying to take credit for your amazing work. And then skipping over this again. Okay, so fingers crossed. This now bites. Yes, perfect. Okay, so we have this beautiful green box saying successful. So it's passed. So what Rosanna was talking about earlier, so it's passed the schematron. So it's gone through all the validation checks. All the mandatory fields have been filled in, and they've been filled in to a good standard, which means that it's passed, which is fantastic. Now it's got to this stage, but that does not mean that we have a record on MEDIN yet, because to get a MEDIN record on MEDIN, you need to export to the MEDIN portal. So I'm not going to do that because this is unfinished, and Lindsay probably needs to take a check over it. But yeah. The one thing to say is if you make an update to your MEDIN metadata record, so if you go into the editor and you make an edit, you need to re-export your metadata record, because if you don't, it will have the original version on the MEDIN portal, if that makes sense. Hopefully it's making sense. But yeah. Something else I have to say. I think that might be it. Does anyone have any questions at the moment, or want me to go over anything else to do with what I've just done? No?
Well, I guess just going to ask with Maddie sort of thing, a lot of this community group stuff will have the exact same entry. So Maddie, you mentioned you're doing some document to help fill this out. So some of those things, like the C area that we need to pick out for like CVOX, we'll all be using the same one. So will that be kind of just provided so that we can just easily write it in each time rather than have to try to remember what to fill in there?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to remember now what I included in the guidance. Where possible, I did include examples. I think with the like C areas, I didn't, because it obviously depends on whether you're surveying West Coast or East Coast and things like that. And then if you're going more into like the IC's specific areas, that will vary as well. But because it's not mandatory, I think with that, I have left it optional so that you don't have to fill it out, because if I remember correctly, the tool is meant to convert your bounding box and automatically fill those bits out. But when I was testing it, when I was preparing the guidance, it wasn't working for me. So hopefully in the new tool that might work better. I don't know, but for the moment, I just thought the bounding box is sufficient for the community data and for the metadata record to get through the system, because they are optional fields, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I think with all of the other areas, as you saw when Summer was going through it, a lot of the fields relate to cells in the spreadsheets. So I would always, in the guidance, it's always connecting which one relates to which field, so that you can do what Summer's been doing and just copy and paste it over to help with that side of things.
So if you so if you want to define this again, all you need is the title. Just go to update, type that in, and then this should come up. Sometimes this can be a bit funny and it won't come up immediately. So just give it a bit of a nudge, and then yeah, it should come up. And then you can go back into editing the record if it wants to do it. There we go.
Sorry, just going back a step. Do we log in? Do we have a login as an individual or a login as an organisation?
That is completely up to you. Yes, it's completely up to you. So you just need to register for an account. So I'll just, if I just log out. Yeah, so you just need to register for an account here. And then it's, yeah, I guess that's for you guys to decide if you wanted one account or if you wanted individual accounts. I would say we've had problems in the past where people have been part of an organization and then they've had a login under their personal email or under their email that they've had, you know, just for them at work. And then people have left and then they've had organizations have had records that they own, but they can't access. But then I don't know how complicated it would be for you guys to have one login. I'm not sure.
Okay, and if we have our own individual login, does it then link it through to the SSSI records, or when you set up your login, does it?
No. So you can only see what you've created. If someone else has created a record on a different account and then you wanted it on your account, you just need to pop us an email and then we can transfer that to your account. Right. But it's not something that we can do really easily, if that makes sense. So it takes doesn't take too long, but it's not just a click. It's not just a click to do that. It is a tiny bit of effort. So it's not something we could do on a really regular basis, if that makes sense.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Shall I go over another one? Is that, or have people had enough already of hearing my voice? Yeah, I'll go over another one. Okay. So we already have. Yeah, so we already have this record actually. So maybe I should see what happens when I try and create one with the same title. I suspect it'll come up with an error. Yeah, okay, so you already have a title with this record. So that's all good. So I'm going to call it something else. And hopefully it will work. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so again, I'm just going to copy the abstract from MEDIN spreadsheet straight into the abstract field. By the way, I probably should have mentioned these question marks here should help you. So they've got information about what kind of element it is, or it's mandatory, conditional, or optional, and then it just gives you a bit of a description of what the field actually is. If that doesn't help, I think Rosanna did mention this. I've lost the page. I did have it open. Oh yeah, there we go. So if you just go onto the MEDIN homepage, and then data standards, and then MEDIN discovery metadata standard, just get the brief version. So it looks like a big document and can look a bit scary, but just give a quick search of what you're looking for. So resource abstract, because in some cases the information that we have in the tool isn't quite sufficient. So you can it'll just give you some nice examples, and yeah, so you just need to search for your field really in here. And you don't need to go to the full one. The brief one is perfectly fine. So yeah, so English. And then again, so sorry, I'm going to repeat myself, but just because I know sometimes it can go in one ear and out the other when you're not quite familiar, and yeah, it's the end of the day. So yeah, so this is going to be the download link, but of course this is something that we're going to pop in for you, so you can leave this blank. And then general web address resource, if you're archiving dash, this is going to be dash. The code is going to be our survey code in the MEDIN spreadsheet. And then again, so we've got a spreadsheet. So that's what our data format is in. And then of course you may have other data formats if you've archived anything else with us, like GIS files. And then of course this is going to be the file identifier of the project Discover Metadata record, but that will be something that I guess is with Maddie maybe. And then so Maddie, I'm just talking about so the project.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, I can double check as well, because obviously the narwhal data set was done before I started, and I didn't know if that one has a project ID with it, if Caitlin had created a project metadata or not, but I can check that otherwise.
Yeah.
And then I can do that.
I can have a quick check actually. A second. It doesn't look like anything's been created under the title, I don't think. No, but maybe it's under a different name or something, or maybe it's just not been created yet. But yeah, I'll let you check that then, Maddie. Thank you. So sorry, I've just clicked off of my my record, so I'm going to go to my records because it's already been created, and then I'm going to look for my, yes, there we go, that's the one. So you can either edit it, which is going back to the view I had before, or review it. I think the review one is just a one page with everything we filled out. I think my computer thinks it's Friday. Is ready for a nap, maybe. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So where do we go up to? Okay, so the tool actually does something funny. Again, this is hopefully going to be sorted in the new tool. It will put an extra HTTP on there, thinking that it's being really helpful. It's fine. This is something that we'll pick up during QA. So sometimes it does it in certain circumstances. Yeah, it's just a quirk. We'll pick it up when we QA most data records. Don't worry about it too much. It's just if you see it and think, oh, that's a bit strange. But yeah. So this is optional, but yeah, usually just describe the website I've put in, which is obviously the Dash website for this. That's fine as it is. Yep, so I just put code in there. Yep, perfect. Yeah, so I assume this is also WGS 84, which it is, perfect. So that's in the drop-down menu there. And like I said before, this is a vocab code which is automatically filled out, so that's great. Sorry, I'm just going to move this over here.
When I was going through it to create a test alongside the guidance, and when I got to the date bits, I was a bit thrown back by the fact that you had to pick it with the calendar. Made me laugh. Yeah.
Do you know, so you can paste into there. The only thing is, if you have a Mac which are famous for creating ghost characters, even though it won't show up in the fields, but it will create an error because it doesn't recognize what those are. And so you'll be like, what on earth is going on here? And it'll say something like, invalid symbol, and you'll be there for ages, and then all of a sudden you'll copy and paste it into a text file, and then you'll realize there's all these ghost symbols that appeared out of nowhere. So it's definitely safer to click, in the boxes rather than paste, but so that's, so again, the day the data was published, going to put today's date, I'm going to put today's date again, and then the date the data was created, I'm going to use the end date. So this will be quite similar to the one before. So just scroll through and select the applicable keywords from this one. Which are somewhere.
Yeah, this is one of the ones I was kind of wondering with Maddie, if like all the groups doing the same keywords, if we can just kind of have a list of keywords that we should be using, because it's quite a long list.
Yeah, I've done that for that. I went through all of them. I was like, which ones are relevant? There aren't that many in there, but I have pulled out the ones that seem the most relevant to the type of surveys that will be happening.
Yeah, and you can, so yeah, you don't have to scroll through, so you can type. So if you've got a list of keywords, just type them and then it will come up for you. So that's a bit of a time saver. That's a good shout. Yeah, so these other keywords, I always select things like biodiversity and habitat and things like that. But these aren't actually mandatory. It's nice to have biodiversity in there. I think, because it's not included in the other vocabs, but everything else I don't think matters too much. Yeah, sorry, I'm just gonna slowly go through this again. So just a fault with our tool, the map doesn't appear. You have to actively select this cross here on the right hand side, which brings up this box, and then select Google Satellite, which then brings up the map. You can then zoom using your mouse, or you can zoom and zoom out using the plus and the minus symbol here. So as you can see, the north, south, east and west boxes that came up before aren't present until you select a bounding box, which isn't that helpful because you might have coordinates ready. But then as soon as you select a bounding box, this does appear. So if you did have your own coordinates, just quickly select a bounding box anywhere, and then you can fill in your own. And then if you wanted to modify the box, you can, just select this option on the left-hand side, and that will allow you to modify it. So either change the size of it or move it or anything. If you wanted to delete it, click on the big cross, and then you just need to select the box, and then that deletes it. And then if you just want to move around the map, you can select the hand. So hopefully it should be quite straightforward. But if not, give us a shout, and we can always do it for you or help you. But yeah, so I'm gonna. So the top one is just to create a bounding box again, so I'll just do that. So we'll save. And then, yes, this is what Maddie was talking about. So we've got like all these quite complicated CBOX regions, ICs, rectangles, and statistical areas, but none of it is actually mandatory. So you can just leave it all. And the tool should, in theory, when you select a bounding box, the tool should select these things. Unfortunately, it doesn't at the moment, but hopefully with the updated tool, it will. It's sometimes nice to have a vertical extent, but it's completely up to you. This, even though it is blue, shows it's mandatory. It's not actually mandatory. But yes, if you do know your sort of zone, it's nice to have. It's nice to specify sometimes. Yeah.
Sorry, on the last one, can you remind me when we're working into title, if it's like above chart datum, is it negative?
I don't know.
Yeah, if I'm going to say this with 99% confidence because it's something that I always have to go check as well. But if I remember correctly, and it will be written correctly in the guidance, so we can double check it there as well. But if you're measuring depth subtidally, that's just like a positive integer. And if it's intertidal, then it's a negative one. So yeah, that should be the right way around.
Thanks.
Makes sense. Sorry, I'm rarely in the field these days, so I forget about all this stuff. And yeah, people rarely fill in these boxes, so I don't normally have to answer their difficult questions. But no, it's good practice. Yeah, okay, perfect. I will move on. So then, sorry, I'm repeating myself again. So lineage is just any additional information. It could be yeah, it's always something that maybe the user needs to know about a particular data set. Maybe something isn't as high confidence as the rest, so data A is of less confidence, you know, or anything that doesn't fit anywhere else, but you feel like the user should know at the discovery metadata level. So yeah, and then this is to do with any additional access information. So if you're archiving with Dash, again, it will be open accessible. If for any reason in the future you have a data set which you don't want to make publicly available, you can still create a discovery metadata record of your own. It doesn't have to be a MEDIN spreadsheet that you've archived with Dash, but you can just put something like this is available upon request via this email address. Yeah, so if it's something that you wanted to be a bit more restrictive, you're welcome to create your own discovery metadata record without it being associated. Obviously, we encourage open data, but there is that option available. Yeah, so and then the second field, even though the top field is access information, the second field also is access and use constraints. So I tend to put access and a semicolon to then split up and then specify the reuse license. If anyone did want any advice on licenses, you just have to let me know, and then I can send you lots of links and talk you through it. But generally, organisations that want their data open to anyone either go with open government license or CC BY. And then frequency of update as needed. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see the only problem with letting sort of the general public make their own contacts is that sometimes you have lots of duplication with contacts. So we have many different contacts which are Dash. We don't do this anymore because we've just ended up with millions of people that used to work for Dash or volunteered with Dash, and then they don't work there anymore, and we've got lots of different contacts. So I assume, Maddie, you've probably already got this planned and sorted out, but it's good if you all sort of stick to one contact, or you know which contact you're going for, and then we don't end up with sort of lots of duplicates. But yeah, so I'll leave one of these blank. So specification we will leave. Oh, was expecting it to come up with an error, but apparently the last contact is not required. Yeah, so unfortunately, as you may discover, our tool is a little bit outdated, which means it doesn't always reflect the standard as it should. Yes, so if you are having any trouble with we know all the quirks, please let us know. Yeah, I apologize for this. I was hoping it would throw up another error so I could show you, but what I'll do is I'll just go back into it and then I'll delete something that's not meant to be there. Oh, I don't know. Hopefully that will throw up an error, but I'll delete something else too, just in case. Perfect. Okay, so this so weirdly some of the errors are really obvious and it says exactly what's wrong, which is great when that happens. So crawl.reference system must be supplied. So I'm going to go back into the record by clicking that, which should take you back into the editing mode. And then, yes, so the classification tab, looks like that. Give that a save. Okay. I was hoping the little star I put in would also put up an error, but I think, so we didn't used to allow special characters, but I think it got a bit ridiculous with what we weren't allowed to put in. So I think that they're now allowed maybe. But yeah, does anyone have any questions about that or anything you want to go back through, or if they wanted me to create a discovery metadata record that's more applicable? I'm going to take that as a no, I think. Maybe everyone's had a really long day. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So Lindsay, obviously I've made this record, which is some of the information, but
well done.
So did you want me to transfer that to your account, because it's a part completed record, and then you're welcome to have a look at it and have a play around with it?
That'd be good. I don't think I've got I've not got set up with an account.
Okay.
So
well, I'll tell you what, if I'll post this. Have we got a chat on this? I'll just stop sharing.
You have a look at the guidance, Lindsay. Otherwise, the first bit of it includes a step-by-step process of how to register for an account, and it includes the link, which I think is what you're about to share, Summer.
Oh yeah.
Right, okay, I'll do that this evening. I'll set an account up and.
Yeah. Did you want me to put it on the chat, or shall I? Do you want me to leave it? It's up to you.
You said it's on the guidance you sent through today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not had a chance to look through that yet because I've been out all day. So
okay, perfect.
Yeah, I'll use that and try and set up tonight.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, once you've set up, if you just tell me what email address you've used, I can then transfer that to your account, and then you can have a play with it. Yeah, perfect.
Can I just? I suppose it's just going back to who we have set up as the account holder for our group. If for any reason, so say I set myself up with my own email account, which we probably will do, then if, say for any reason, I don't know, so I got run over by a bus or something and I couldn't do anything, can you then transfer the data to somebody else?
Yeah, as long as they know the email address.
Right, okay, that's fine then. Yeah.
Although I don't know whether it would. Have you all got access to a similar email address? Have you got access to one organisation?
No. So we've got an organisation email, but it just goes to our secretary who's got absolutely nothing to do with the surveying or the.
Okay. Okay.
So
Fair enough.
I don't want him to have any emails from it because he wouldn't know what to do with it. So we've not got a grouped one, so it makes sense to me to use my own one, and it's not a work one because I don't work, so it's fine. I'm not going to get rid of it, but I just wondered if.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Did anyone have any other questions? It doesn't have to be about discovery metadata, it can be about anything else. Or yeah.
And presumably once we've got an account, we can then go in and search for all the other people's data, or
no, so you won't have access to anyone else's account records. You'll only have access to the ones you've created. So for the one that I've just created, what I will do is transfer that over to your account, so you then own it and can do whatever you want with it.
Okay, but if the data goes on as open access, doesn't that mean that anybody can go in and
no? So
see it?
So if you export it, anyone can view it, but only the person who created it will have it in their metadata editor account to edit it and do with it what they wish, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean to edit it. I just meant once you've got an account, you can go in and look at, so to view all the data that's in MEDIN. Is that right or not?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You can use an account to search on the portal. So I don't know if you want to put your screen back up, Summer, but at the beginning, Summer showed you the screen of what the MEDIN portal looks like. And that's where you can search for your data and other people's data, but you don't actually need an account to do that. So you can just do that regardless of whether you've registered or not. Having an account allows you to make the discovery metadata record, which then goes onto the portal. But to use the portal, you don't need an account, if that makes sense.
It does. I think I tried searching on there last night, and it came up with I needed to log in to actually look at something once I'd clicked on something that came up, and it said I needed to register to actually be able to look at it. So I was just wondering whether this setting up will let me look at it, or whether some data sets have further registration that you have to do.
I don't think. I suppose in theory, if you go into a data set and then you want to access the resource, if you want to download the data set, in theory, there could be a link in there where you need to register for something. But just to look at the discovery metadata records, you should be able to just view them, if that makes sense. So okay. I'll just show you here. So if you're just on the MEDIN homepage, just go to data and then find data, which takes you to the MEDIN portal. So it's got lots of lovely search. Oh gosh, well, apparently I don't know how to use it. It's got lots of really lovely search functions. So you can draw a bounding box, which of course then cross examines that with all the metadata records it's got and finds the ones that have bounding boxes which overlap with this. And then you can do a bit more of a search. This will search for this term in the title, and then you can do like from and to dates. You can even, this has been updated recently actually, there's a few more things here which are quite exciting. You can find a season that you particularly want. You can do a few more searches actually with the advanced stuff, but then if we just search here, yeah, so then everything that corresponds with bound box I drew, and then with seagrass, which I put in, it will bring up. So then we've got all of these discovery metadata records, which then go on to 4 pages. Yeah, so then you can view that. So when it's red, it means that there isn't a resource link, which means you can't download the data. But usually that means that you just need to get in contact and say, look, I found this discovery metadata record and it looks like a great data set. Can I have access to it? Yeah, so it's oil and gas. So that maybe means they don't want to share it, but they put it on MEDIN just to advertise it. So yeah. Or maybe it's just an error with the discovery metadata record. That could also be it. But yes. So does that answer your question, Lindsay?
Yeah, that's that's great. I think I got this far actually, and I clicked on something that was green, but it still had another login. That one seems fine.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
it was a BO. Yeah, it was the BODC.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not that familiar with the way sort of BODC works. I don't know if Rosanna wants to chime in here.
Yeah, I can help with that. So basically, some of the records will link you to other portals like the BODC portal. So to download anything from BODC, unless it's a DOI, in which case it's completely openly accessible, you do need to have a login, but it's free to create a registration. It just lets us know like who's downloading the data, because we need to report that to people. But obviously not like who you are, but like whether you've come from a charity or whatever, those kinds of things.
Right. Okay. So it's fine. It's fine to set up a request for a login for that, for things like this, and then you can just be nosy and see what's on there. Yeah.
So it takes you to a login page, but I guess if you've not got a login, then there's a register button up here on the top right. So I guess you first need to click on that, register, and then okay. I can't register.
No, so there's there's some issues at the moment with that, but I think technically you should be able to register somehow. I think maybe if you reload the page a couple of times, it sometimes works, but we do have IT people working on it.
It's always when you're demonstrating, isn't it?
Yeah,
It always goes wrong. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have a play about with it and see what I can do.
So I'm just gonna repeat myself here. Actually, I just thought. So yeah, I know I said this before. So if you make 1 second. So if I decide if I've already exported this record, which means it's then available on the MEDIN portal to view. If I then make any sort of change, maybe some additional information to the abstract or something, even though I've saved it, that will not be reflected on the MEDIN portal until I re-export it. So save and validate, and then export to the MEDIN portal again, because they're not live systems for each other. So one change in one doesn't automatically reflect a change in another. You have to press the export button, if that makes sense. Yeah. Is that okay? No, did anyone have any questions about anything else?
Not yet. Not till I have a go at doing one.
I was going to say, I'm sure more questions will come from those attending and those not attending once they start trying things out and testing things. But I'm sure together we can answer questions and figure a way forward out.
Yeah. Okay.
I suppose just one question for Maddie actually. So going forward, so we need to get the data into the spreadsheet, get you to check through the spreadsheet and make sure that's correct. Is that right? And then when that's all 100%, and then the next stage is to go through and try and get it onto MEDIN. Is this?
Sort of.
Yeah.
So eventually my part in the step will be removed as the communities and like everybody gets more familiar with the data process. So that's the aim with developing these resources, so that you can go back to look at them, and developing all the guidance documents, because essentially the ultimate aim of the project is for it to create a legacy and for it to be self-sustaining. Caveat around that is that obviously COVID's had a significant impact on everybody's ability to get out and collect data, which then has a knock-on effect on building your data skills. So there's that side of things, but yeah, the data journey at the moment is you go collect your data, then enter it in, you validate it. Once the data has been validated, it will eventually go to what we're calling the community expert verifiers. That process still needs to be established, but I'm currently doing that step. So I'm looking at, for example, the spreadsheets that you've sent to me. I'll be looking at the photos and the videos that go with them to make sure that the species IDs are correct, and I'll be classifying biotopes where like they're obvious or clear to do so. And then some of the data can be submitted via marine recorder, and then it's up to you if you want to also archive the data with MEDIN, which I guess is a long-term storage. Makes sense, as they mentioned, I think on Monday. It's good to store your data somewhere, especially if you can put the spreadsheets and the images together. I'm developing a guidance document that explains the whole process. So like it's kind of an overview of all the different stages and how you get from one to the next, which will be especially relevant when my role in the process, I guess, gets removed. I hope that helps in terms of answering your question, Lindsay.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know if anybody else has any questions for myself or Summer and Rosanna.
Yeah, maybe if we can ask one. So when we made the metadata and the submission for Narwhal, we did, I think, one discovery metadata record, which basically referred to the cruise, which was the whole season's worth of records. So would it actually have been better to either have a different discovery metadata record for each kind of like different survey event that we might be doing going forwards, or would it be worth kind of clumping a year's worth of surveying of the same kind of methodology under one, or is that where you kind of use that parent kind of structure?
Really good question. So generally your discovery metadata record will reflect the physical data set. So if you've got loads of surveys clumped into 1 year in a spreadsheet, that will then be the reflective in the discovery metadata record. Introducing a project ID makes it can make it a little bit confusing if you've got multiple projects which are then also part of this bigger project. So I would recommend one minute, where have we gone? I would recommend that either Maddie or yourselves creates one discovery metadata record which is reflective of the whole community-led marine biodiversity monitoring project, and then everyone uses that as the parent, and then everything else is linked to that, but then you're creating discovery metadata records reflective directly of your data sets, exactly as they are. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Not quite. Maybe I've got the wrong end of the stick.
How does it have both, I guess, was what confused me.
Oh, project and data set.
Yeah.
It is, it is a confusing concept. I regularly change my mind about whether I like the fact that we have projects as well. So the project is the overarching project or series or whatever. It's just a way to connect multiple surveys that are part of the same project. It doesn't really serve that much of a purpose. It's just it's just filling these fields in, and then particularly in this case, it's just going to have a discovery metadata record, and then I'll just go back to the another one. So I deleted the other test record, so I'll just you'll just have to pretend this was the one I created. So yeah, let's assume that yeah. So this is a data set. So this is going to be the 2020 Narwhal Expeditions West Coast of Scotland survey. So that is what we're creating this discovery metadata record for. And we're specifying data set because it is a data set. And then, I'm so sorry, this is a bit confusing. And then the file identifier of the other discovery metadata record for the project goes in here, which will be the equivalent of this, but in the project one. And then, so basically the function of it is so that multiple different data sets can be linked together. So someone could find the project on MEDIN and be like, oh, wow, so all of these different data sets are associated with that. That's great. That's the only function of it, really, except in very specific circumstances, but I'm not going to go into those. Yeah, does that make a bit more sense?
Yeah, so that file identifier might be set up by Maddie for the overarching project, and then we can just copy that into the parent ID each time we submit a data set.
Yeah, it's just a way to link them. That's really the only function. So yeah, we create.
You keep it as data set. You don't switch it to series or something like that.
No, so not for your individual data sets. So no, you'll just select data set. When Maddie goes and creates the project, she will select series, but you in theory you'll never have to do that because you've always got this one project which will already have discovery metadata, and yeah, you just need to link them.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Just to add to that, I don't know if it helps to then think about your individual, let's say, days or surveys that you're doing within your overarching data set that you're submitting. If you remember what we were looking at yesterday, at how, for example, thinking about the habitat mapping survey, each habitat map was a sample event. So that's how you bring in the individual surveys or observations into the data set, which is why it makes sense the way that your previous data set was submitted, because it brought together those sample events into one data set instead of individually having to submit one spreadsheet with all the metadata that would be the same essentially for individual habitat maps, if that helps as well.
Yeah, thanks, that's useful.
Yeah, so there's no set rules, unfortunately, for exactly what counts as one survey. So we have some organisations that prefer to submit 5 years at a time worth of data, and they will count that as one survey. It's just what makes sense, what's convenient. You use the same methodology, it's by the same owners. You know, it just makes sense to submit 5 years if that's convenient for the data provider. So it really is what you prefer, really, that sort of makes logical sense.
I'm just going to jump in here and recommend that community groups don't wait 5 years to submit data, because I think it might end up being a bit harder to figure out what on earth happened 5 years ago.
Any other questions?
No, nothing from me. All good. I'm sure once I get entering stuff, I'll have loads for you, but fine for now.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to call that a success then.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think these sessions have been really useful, and I think they'll continue to be useful. It's a good thing to be able to come back and watch.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much. Really useful.
All right. I don't know if you want to stop the recording or we say bye.
Cool. Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Good luck with all your data stuff, and obviously it will be accessible by email and stuff if you have questions. Yeah, see you later.
Perfect. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks for listening.
Guys.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.